Courage JD has made it to Unreal, the highest rank in Fortnite's new ranked mode. It only took him around 2 days, and he didn't play with any professionals, predominantly just playing with other content creator friends like CypherBK. Now, I love Courage, but come on, the highest rank. The highest rank. Combine it with the fact that he's playing with Legion, someone who literally cannot build, who also got to Unreal, and there are clearly some issues here. But it being incredibly easy to get to Unreal isn't the only issue. The first for me is that there's only 2 different ranks. So you can either play Battle Royale, which is the regular building mode, or you can just play the zero build mode. If you choose to play the build option, there's solos, duos, and squads. And if you decide to play the zero build option, you can only play zero build duos. Now, my main concern here is that if you're going to play the build mode, it's very easy to get rank up by playing squads or even duos if you play with a moderately good player. However, solos is very difficult to rank up to Unreal, and it actually feels like a true challenge. Now, for professional players, it's very easy to play solos and get up to Unreal, but for players like myself, it's become very difficult to make an attempt to, and that's actually going to be a video I'll try to do next season when the new season drops. But there seems to be a massive disparity between the ranking systems in solos, duos, and then squads, and things like Courage JD getting to Unreal are a result of that easier transition when it comes to squads gameplay. So for me, I would like to see these 3 have separate ranks: your solo rank, your duo rank, and your squad rank. This is especially true since ranked mode is going to be what qualifies you for tournaments. So for specific solo tournaments, I think you shouldn't be able to be carried in squads by a bunch of good players up to a higher rank to give you entry to a tournament. You should just be good enough in that specific solo ranked mode to be able to qualify for those cups, which we'll come back to when it comes to FNCS a little bit later. And the main issue I have with this is that you can't D-rank from Unreal. So if you played any of the lower ranks, you'll know that you can go up or you can go down if you play badly. But once you get into the top rank, which is Unreal, you can't D-rank out of that by any means. If you play awful, die off spawn, 50 games in a row, you're still going to be Unreal, but you're just going to go to the bottom of the Unreal leaderboard. And the result of that, as of recording, is there's currently 8,320 people in Unreal worldwide. But if you look at the distribution of players throughout the other ranks, something's clearly off. You can see there's a small peak where it says Unreal, and Elite and Champion have almost no players playing in it, having 2,079 in Elite and 1,292 in Champion. And essentially what this means is these Elite and Champion players have at some point gotten into the Unreal rank, and because they can't D-rank, there's essentially no one going into the Elite and Champion ranks, making them significantly rarer than seeing someone who's actually in Unreal. Now, the way I would like to do this would be a certain amount of people in each of these 3 ranks once you passed Diamond 3. There's roughly 10,000 people worldwide in Unreal, Champion, and Elite when you combine them together. So say you had 500 people in Unreal, say 3,000 people get to Champion, and then 6,500 are in Elite. And what does this mean is there's just natural deranking. If someone below you on the leaderboard goes up, that means that you get pushed down and potentially out of Unreal. And this means for me that the players who are in Elite, Champion, Unreal have a bigger reason to grind to be at the top because they fear for dropping out of that Unreal rank. And if they say make the qualification for FNCS Elite, that means that all of these players from Elite up to the top are going to be trying significantly harder because they want to ensure they have a good game, creating higher quality matches that are much more closer to a tournament. Because right now, if you get into Elite, Champion, or Unreal, these games are still just pubs. Everyone's W keying. No one's necessarily trying to play it like a tournament, play for wins. You may get a couple of elims and then play slowly and not be as aggressive as you would in Arena, but the quality of games are nothing close to what you're going to see in a tournament. And ideally, what I would like to see is as players progress through the ranked mode, the games get higher quality and more similar to a competitive tournament. So take the bronze mode. Epic have actually done something really smart. They've actually put bots in the lower level ranked modes. So say you are a legitimate bronze 2 player. I'm not sure if there even are any bronze 1 players. Apparently they can't be found on Fortnite Tracker. But as you progress through up into gold, there's becoming less and less bots, and the games get higher quality, there's better players. So for new players entering competitive, it's a steady and learnable curve from pubs. And then as you progress through the ranks, you get to gold, you get to platinum, you get to diamond, the games get harder and harder because the players are better because they're also an equal rank to you. But not only this, players should be hoping to play for endgame more, meaning that by the time you get up into Elite, Champion, and Unreal, the games are definitely not going to be an FNCS quality by any means, but if they have some resemblance of a moving zones, 20 people for example, that is such a better rank system than what it currently is, which might be 5 or 6 people in the endgame. And all of this would become pointless if you can't drop out of Unreal like you currently can't. The main reason for this is because there's going to be services out there where players will be boosted up to Unreal. They'll pay money to play with a full trio of really good players, they'll boost them straight up to Unreal, and then they never have to play ranked again, and they can play all the tournaments they want. And even if they do play ranked, it doesn't matter because they can't fall out of Unreal. The result of this is that Unreal games have way worse players in them, and the quality of these matches absolutely plummets. You've also got to think that this is a problem that gets worse the more the season goes on. So the more players make it into Unreal, the worse the quality of those Unreal games will be, because it's no longer a good matchmaking system. It's just whoever's in Unreal will queue with people from Unreal, because it'll be pros all the way down to people who just got carried to that rank. And this kind of brings me on to my next point, how you actually gain points. Now, firstly, there is no visual indicator in-game to either show your rank or to show what you need to do to rank up or what to gain, which is very confusing. Do I play for placement? Do I go for elims? My initial thought was that it's very placement heavy, so I tried to go for low elim games, get to like a top 5, and I lost rank. What seems to be the easiest way to get points is high elimination games, which again just promotes more W keying and more fighting. Now, I understand why they don't want it to be so placement heavy. It would make sense. You don't want people getting just 0 elim thirds and playing with no guns like I would definitely do to try and make it up to Unreal rank. But right now, it does seem very punishing when you have a low elimination game, but you still place high into the top 5. So basically, the current format doesn't reward you for playing placement and trying to actually win the game. So if you try to play to win and then just come shy of that, say like a 2nd to 5th, and you manage to get no elims, it's just like a wasted game essentially in some matches. And this is where we get into some of the other issues, which is how it works on each individual region. Now, I obviously am EU, and a lot of my viewers are from EU as well, which, if you're not familiar with Fortnite, is the largest region. It has the most players, which means that the rank mode can work the best. When you start to go into some of these smaller regions that are around the world, you'll notice that things like queue times and match quality are significantly different. Now, last season, NA added a 3rd region, NA Central, to host all of the tournaments, so they're no longer be held on West or East, and it's all just into one central server. However, for ranked mode, you can queue into all 3 different servers, and this has split the player base that was already struggling with queue times in the previous ranked mode, Arena, into now 3 different servers, making it even worse. So unfortunately, I know a lot of people won't be happy about this, but I do believe that the correct strategy going forward will be to combine all of the ranked mode that you can only queue onto NA Central, as this will allow you much higher quality games in all 3 of these solos, duos, and then squads, and then also into the zero build modes, which ping doesn't really make that much of a difference in. In fact, right now, a lot of the zero build players are just playing on Europe because they have a higher chance of getting a queue. Then there's other regional differences that you also just need to think about. OCE, the smallest region with often the largest difference in skill between the top and the bottom players, is incredibly easy to play ranked. Now, this kind of goes back to how squads are a pretty poor method of using for ranked, because if you get a squad of some of the best players in OCE, it almost doesn't matter who is in your lobby, you're going to be so much better than everyone else, meaning that it's very easy for teams like I've just seen X2 Twins, for example, play with 2 pros. Like, every game is going to be a 25 elimination win, meaning they're just climbing the ranks so much easier than a player would, say, on EU solo. And since the leaderboard currently is global, that means that some of these smaller region players have an advantage because their games are just significantly easier than some of the games on higher regions, which is one of the reasons why I would actually like to see more regional leaderboards and then also a world leaderboard, because it doesn't necessarily make sense to compare the two. This is, of course, assuming that you can get queues on these regions. OCE, apparently solo queues are almost impossible after a certain period. Duo queues apparently take around 20 minutes, and squads apparently take around 10 minutes. And from what I've seen, solo queues in a lot of the regions are very, very rough. And this is where it comes into another difficult dilemma, because the higher quality you make the games, the tighter you make the matchmaking, that means the longer the queue times are going to be. And in some of these smaller regions, it's just not possible to have high quality games that are run relatively frequently. As a fix to this, Epic have already shortened the queue times, but can make the game quality suffer. And that's where I kind of go back to my top X percentage or top X players in Elite, Champion, and Unreal, meaning that if you're just below that in Diamond, you're going to be trying your hardest and playing high quality games to try to qualify for FNCS. If you're an Elite or Champion, you're going to be fearing that the players below you on the leaderboard are going to overtake you, dropping you out of the qualification, meaning you're going to try your hardest when it comes to ranked and play high quality games and not W key. And if you're an Unreal and don't care about FNCS, you're going to be grinding for the first place slot. So higher quality games overall. One thing I haven't touched on yet is zero build. Now, as you notice, when it comes to the build mode, there's 994,000 players, just over that are ranked and have played something that are tracked on this. But if you look at zero build instead, it's almost half of the players, and the rank distribution between them is very interesting. You can see there's a huge amount of players in the bronze 2 2 up until Platinum 1, and then there's a sharp decline after that. Now, in Diamond 2 and Diamond 3, you can almost not even see what the players are there at all, but it's 641 Diamond 2, 285 Diamond 3 players, and then as you hover over Elite and Champion, nothing pops up. There's such a small amount of players, I just assume that this is under 100 players each. But apparently, if you're in Unreal, you can't find a game if you queue with another Unreal player. The results of this are quite interesting. The #1 zero build player right now is Camnuts, and at the start of almost every single day when I've checked back through his stream VODs, he's playing with a player that is on a brand new account and unranked to get faster queue times and get into games with lower level players. Now, if you're keen-eyed, you may think this shouldn't even be possible because what Epic Games themselves said was, whilst in a party, matchmaking is based on the highest ranked player in the party, though there appears to be a bug in the matchmaking system. And this isn't just Cam that's doing this, the majority of the top zero build players are doing the exact same strategy, dueling with someone who is just on a brand new account. But they may also just understand there's a bug with the system and be doing this to get lower level queues, to get easier games, to climb the ranks faster. It also becomes a little bit more suspicious to me because I checked in Prospering stream and he often queues with other Unreal players and seems to get on just fine. Outside of the potential queue issues, the zero build ranked mode seems to have been well received. However, the ranked mode for the build mode, there's a lot to be desired for, in particular when it comes to the loot pool. For ranked, the loot pool is exactly the same as the public match loot pool. Historically, this has been a terrible idea as many unbalanced items come into ranked. However, right now Epic Games seem to be making a slightly different direction with this. Rather than prioritizing things for pubs, putting whatever they want into that game mode, they seem to be making balance changes based on what is in ranked mode, and those ranked changes go into pubs. So the complete opposite of the previous thought process. It's clear they want as many players to play ranked and to get into tournaments as possible, and this creates an easy transition if all of the loot pools are the same. There's a couple issues that I see with this thought process. The first one is that things being balanced for competitive isn't necessarily that good for the pub and the casual players. Take the grenade nerf that happened last week as an example. They've been nerfed down to almost non-existent usage because in competitive matches, players could line them up and guarantee kills on players who had absolutely no counter to this. However, now they're just completely useless. The pub players don't even understand this strategy and they're confused. I've also seen similar comments when it comes to the heavy sniper nerf as well, even though I think that's a good nerf when it comes to the competitive side. So usually changes that are good for casuals are bad for the competitive scene, and changes that are good for the competitive scene are bad for the casuals. Yet the loot pools are exactly the same. The main concern I have with this is if the game gets too competitive. I never thought I would personally say that, and it becomes too much of a good system for ranked mode. Typically, these are boring metas for casual players, and one of the things that's really important for competitive viewership, for my own YouTube channel viewership, I know, and for tournament player base, is that the casuals are currently interested in the game. If there's not good collaborations, good fun items for them to use, I understand that they lose interest, don't want to play the game as much, and therefore, as a result, the entire competitive ecosphere struggles. So if you balance the game for the casuals too much, the competitive players don't like it, and ranked will suck. If you make it too competitive, ranked and competitive is really good, then the casuals are going to be unhappy. It's a lose-lose situation, and I personally don't see a way that this can work in the long term, and the often solution to this is split the loot pools, but I also don't think that will work. Epic makes a lot of money from collaborations, and if you don't put those collaborative items like the ODM gear, for example, into tournaments and rank modes, that's less eyes on that product, meaning that collaboration is less valuable to them and they make less money from it, resulting in them being less likely to put more money back into competitive in prize pools and other events. So it's a bit of a dilemma. What do? Do you split the loot pools? Do you keep them together? I wish I had the answer for this, but I guess what we're going to have to see is over the next couple seasons, over the next year, will Epic Games be able to balance collaboration items in competitive to make them actually not completely broken like all of the previous ones really have been? Fingers crossed. I don't know, but the main thing they goddamn better do is add Siphon or I'm gonna lose my mind. Sick of killing people that have 10 HP. Just put it back in. The game's born without it. I don't need more arguments than that. Also, let's be real. These rewards, yeah. Hope you liked the video. No, I hope not. Hope you, what do I say here? Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe.